everyone. I apologize for the long wait for the tennis video. Just, I don't know, I don't have the greatest self confidence at the moment of putting these things out. So I just kind of was trying to. I've tried to record this a few times, but like script wise, I'm not completely happy. So I'm just going to use what I've have written as sort of a guideline and to go off of. And I'm hoping that the information I can put out here is clear and clarified enough. But I want to talk about the band Tennis, which is like my favorite band at the moment. Has been my favorite band since 2020, and I've seen twice live. They are great live. May not have a big stage presence. I mean, like they're not jump around the stage like Mick Jagger, but she can sing. She sings live. The music's really good. I just have a good time at them, and so I just thought that when I was thinking about making this video around Valentine's Day, I wanted to talk about how they met because they're husband and wife, and his name is Patrick Riley and her name is Alana Moore. They had met during a philosophy course at the University of Colorado in Denver. And the reason why this whole thing started is because Patrick had recognized Alana from a waitressing job that she had had. So they had been acquaintances, but he'd recognized her, so he sat next to her. Obviously, probably because he didn't see anybody else he knew in the course. And they got to talking because you just do when you're sitting next to someone, and they found out they were instant friends. And so time went along, they started dating, that kind of thing. This is Alana's senior year, so she had decided that she was thinking about continuing on her education and going to law school. But this was Patrick's junior year, and he had already kind of come up with a plan. Once he had graduated, he wanted to go sailing for a while. So then when it got to the point where they were dating, they decided they're both going to go sailing together. And this was, they did odd jobs, saved up some money, sold everything they had to buy a 30-foot yacht, 30-foot sailboat to sail down the east coast of America. And so like this, when they went on this trip initially, was not about writing music, was not about getting into the music career. It was about just living the sailing life and just living in that moment. And so they went, did this for about 8 months, and then they've come back and they're in Denver, just sort of getting back into getting work and adulting, that kind of thing, coming back to real life. And they were so inspired by their trip that they decided to do something to commemorate it. But being that both of them were not the greatest of visual artists, they decided to write music because Alana had sung in the church choir that she was a part of, and had some training in classical piano. And Patrick had played the guitar in local bands. So naturally they just decided to write music to commemorate this. However, they had also put their music equipment away, and then they weren't even picturing themselves ever wanting to pull it out again. And so, they weren't really taking music and the songwriting process as like serious. They were writing the music to take you on that trip with them, or take themselves on that trip as memory. But since they put an album out, we get to come along for that trip now. And I do feel like you go on that trip with them in Cape Dory. And so this is their album Cape Dory, the one that came out first. And the way I can describe the music on it is very much like beach movie 1950s, 1960s. And as a kid, sailing was sort of a big part of my life. Like every weekend during the summer, my dad would get the thistle or a sunfish, whatever boat we had out, and we would take it to Kaiser's Lake every weekend. And you know, my dad wanted to teach us all how to sail, but I was the last one, and I didn't want to learn. But he bought me a kayak, kind of thing. But so I kind of grew up around the lake, and listening to music kind of takes me back to that as well. Just the whole lifestyle of sort of just running around the lake barefoot, whatever. Um, and My dad's friend Art calling me Katie Arthur because I march to the beat of my own drum, kind of thing. But yeah, I mean, I kind of miss that. I kind of miss it, but I never learned how to sail, so. But I might, eventually. I'm going to wait till my kids get a little bit older before I do something like that. And so the first song on Cape Dory is called Take Me Somewhere. And I do feel like they do that. I feel like they take you on that trip with them. I feel like the words, the lyrics to the songs kind of put you in that moment, put you in what could be going on, the situation of maybe possibly getting trapped in a canal somewhere because they sailed in at high tide and then low tide was coming in and they had to book it out, kind of thing. That album does that. It's a great album. But yeah, they traveled around for 8 months, but when they came back, they were so inspired by that trip that they wrote that album. And while out on tour for that album, they got a record deal. And initially, Alana didn't really want to go touring because she's not a performer. And that Patrick was the driving force behind all that. And to be honest, maybe we ought to thank Patrick for that, because obviously they put out all these albums and they became a part of the music industry, although they initially weren't going to do that. And I think their music is great. And so now I'm going to talk about the albums a little bit in between Cape Dory up to Swimmer, because Swimmer is where I feel like they're started to really find their sound. And I feel like the last album that they put out, Pollen, they're experimenting with that sound. And I'm kind of thinking we're going to see more of that on Garden, on Face Down in the Garden too, because the first two songs they put out sound a lot like Pollen, sound-wise. And just the experimentation that they're doing with the sound. So let's move into this real quick. So as I said, Cape Dory was an album they had a theme for. They were all ready for it, but they weren't taking songwriting very seriously. They weren't taking their music seriously because they weren't intending on going into the music industry as a career. It just happened. And I mean, for them not taking things that seriously, this is a great album. I love it. And initially, when I listened to this, I would call it modern yacht rock, 1950s, 1960s kind of sound too, or the girl band type sound of the 1960s, 1950s, and then beachy music, just transports you to like a 1950s beach movie. But I've read somewhere that, this is an interview with Alana, that apparently if you call a book beach read, it's an insult to the author. So I don't want to call their music beach music. And literally, besides Cape Dory, it's not really beach music. It sounds, it kind of has that sound that it is because of Cape Dory, but I feel like from Young and Old, which was their second album, to Ritual and Repeat, and Small Sounds, and possibly Yours Conditionally, they have that sound, that beachy sailing sound. And the BMP Please Vinyl Me Please album for Yours Conditionally, I swear to God I did a double take because Alana looks like Jennifer Grey from Dirty Dancing in her it's cute. But they grew like this sounds a lot like Cape Dory, but it's kind of growing into a sound. They got together with Patrick Carney, I believe he's from the Black Keys, and then Ritual and Repeat. I believe Patrick Carney did that as well with them, and I believe they also went on a sailing trip, but along the west coast of America at the time for this one, and possibly Ritual and Repeat as well as Yours Conditionally. But Ritual and Repeat, they do not own the licensing or the license for the music that's on this, so it's kind of out of print, and they aren't probably going to put another run out until the licensing kind of reverts back to them, which I believe they said it takes a number of years, 7 to 10 years, I think. But yeah, they're not going to put anything out yet for that. And the Small Sounds is sort of the same thing. This is an EP from them. 100 Lovers is a great song off of this. So, I mean, it's expensive to get both of them on the secondhand market, but I would say this is just as good as the album is. So then, Yours Conditionally. I mean, I don't know what to say about it, but there's two songs that really stand out for me. Ladies Don't Play Guitar and Modern Woman. Those are great songs off of that album. These are probably the two songs that in the beginning were my picks off the album, and I would go listen to those. Now, their sound is still kind of beachy, but they're kind of growing into their own, but the sound is more mature as well at this point. We Can Die Happy Now is the EP that kind of came either before or after this, and I like one song off this, which is Diamond Rings. That's a fun song, but I think Diamond Rings is starting to sound like more like what you start hearing in Pollen as well. But like Swimmer, which came out in 2000 at the end of 2019, they started ramping things up, and this is what this songs off of this one you will probably hear playing in Whole Foods. You will hear out and about. They were going to be on a couple talk shows, but then COVID hit. So yeah, this was their album where they should have become big on, or bigger on, because and I feel like this is where they found their sound. Very 1970s sort of sound, like late 60s, 70s into like the early 80s, sort of like rock sound. And it just kind of takes you to that as well. But then like Pollen, there is a song and the video for it. I think it's Let's Make a Mistake Tonight. She is walking along a keyboard in the video, and it's kind of 1970s disco sort of imagery, and I kind of like that sound. I kind of feel like that song has that sound, but to me, I feel like Swimmer, Pollen, and the two songs I've heard off of Face Down in the Garden are really starting to sound like they found their sound. And they are experimenting with it. They were experimenting with it on Pollen, and then it feels like they're probably experimenting even more on Face Down in the Garden. Maybe. So this is sort of my rundown of what I think of them and the band's sound, and so and their meeting, and maybe I could talk about each album on their own eventually. I might put one of the videos out for maybe Swimmer when Face Down in the Garden comes out. Maybe. And so, let's see. Okay, a little update on Stratus Crow, the channel. I know I've talked earlier videos that I was considering maybe driving towards making this channel a career channel. When I talk about that, let me clarify that I mean long term. I mean, like, this is my fun this is just a channel to grow with and be fun, but I've got to get sort of a lifestyle together to be able to consistently get videos out for you guys, and maybe get help, whatever. So hopefully I can take you along for that journey as well as the guitar journey as well. But I've been dealing with a lot of sort of confidence type thing, kind of imposter syndrome a little bit, because I'm not that confident, but I've got to build that still. So, I mean, forgive me if I say I'm going to put a big video out and then I kind of hold off, because I've got to build out the confidence to get myself to do it. And I mean, I could even have videoed it and ready to put it out, and I don't put it out. So, I mean, I'm trying. But I think I'm going to end it here. And I hopefully had talked about everything I wanted to. And I mean, I'll have to watch it again. So if I put this out after I watched it, and just is where I wanted it to be. But like I said, I think I will go through and talk about each album on their own instead of having a long video, and then I might put them together as a playlist for you. But please like, subscribe if you want to join me on this journey. I am being serious about these things, but it just I'm just trying my best, and I feel like I'm not the best public speaker, and so yeah. But I have a couple of videos in mind. Like I said, I'm going to probably tear the albums apart and talk about each one separately. I have a video maybe talking about ladies in the industry, because I've read a book from the lead singer of Sleeper, her biography, and then of course reading a little bit of Alana's interviews. I kind of feel like ladies in music all sort of have the same sort of wording about the industry, and it's kind of sad, because it's like, it's not that bad, and it's kind of gotten better, but it hasn't, and it's just sort of, you know, a man's world kind of thing. But I want to maybe probably talk about that a little bit. And so I'm going to go now, start thinking about these videos the way I want them to go. I will probably see you before April 25th, so don't worry, it's not going to be that long of a wait. I may come up with top couple of videos if I feel like going through my albums. I am starting to feel a lot better from the ribs being broken and spring, and my diet's starting to click in a little bit more, so I'm not as wishy-washy sort of things with the diet, and then I'm starting to form healthy habits. So please like, subscribe again, and I hope to see you next time, and possibly in the next video when I do a serious video, which is probably going to be the albums and then the ladies in music. It'll probably take me a couple months to get through those. But bye!